10 years ago, if I told you you're not allowed to go outside for 12 months, no shopping, not even food shopping, no school, no walking with the dogs, you cannot visit your local pub or the gym, no travel, not even seeing your family, you'd be like, are you mad? But this is exactly what happened during the COVID pandemic. The world came to a halt. It shut down its borders and everyone stayed at home for 12 months. You were compliant out of fear. The fear of spreading it to your family, to your loved ones. You felt confused, uncertain, and in despair. But what you did not know, there is a more deadly, a silent killer than the COVID virus that haunts us to this day. This is a story of why social isolation is deadlier than COVID. What is the silent killer that haunts us to this day? Are we in the brink of a mental health crisis? Is social isolation deadlier than the virus? In order to answer this, we need to step back to where it all began. 26th of March 2020.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
The first UK lockdown legally came into force. All borders were shut. No one was allowed to travel out or travel in the country. The first lockdown began.
A quarter of the world's population is now living under some form of lockdown due to coronavirus. More than 3 billion people in almost 70 countries and territories have been asked to stay at home.
Mass testing ramps up as the people of Shanghai prepare to lock down.
The COVID surge is here. It's worse in Europe, which accounted for nearly half of all new cases globally last week.
But an alarming rise in the number of new infections has prompted Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to declare a state of emergency.
Well, heading overseas, and North Korea is right now in strict lockdown, recording, apparently, its first COVID cases.
Korea has warned its residents of the possibility of entering their first potential lockdown.
Nobody knew how long it would last. In the UK, it was thought it would only last about 12 weeks, but it kept prolonging and certainly was unnerving. Fear spread like a wildfire through the news. The world economy was shutting down in unprecedented way. No one saw it coming. The first layoffs came.
I was one of over around 300 people, I would say 320, something like that lost their job statewide because of the budget.
The latest jobs report from the government is worse than expected. The surge in COVID-19 cases is slowing down the economy and more employers are letting workers go.
Temporary closures reduce staff at local restaurants. That's having a huge impact on the local service industry. Many people like bartenders, waiters, line cooks, and hosts forced to file for unemployment, unsure of when they'll be able to get back to work.
If you were lucky enough to live in the UK, you were furloughed. Instead of a mass layoff, the government gave subsidies to businesses to retain their employees while they were off work. However, not everyone was lucky enough to receive a subsidy from the government, especially in developing countries like India and Bangladesh. Nothing could have prepared them for the massive scale layoffs. Families were starving. Business were shut. Everything was shut. The impact of the social isolation started to sink in, and the horror began.
My orders are sa pulis pati military. pati mga barangay, shoot them dead. Kung gusto ninyo barilan, di sige. Gusto ninyo ng pukpukan, sige. I will not hesitate. Let this be a warning to all.
Se ve más hoy kaya po. Ale. Se ve.
On 6th of April, a man, aged 30, from Muhuspir, Opazila in Jinaida, committed suicide due to the pressure of unpaid debts. His family was half-fed and had starved for a week after losing work due to lockdown and was denied any financial support from the local government. On the other side of the city, 5 hours away from the Jinaida, the city of Shiranjgonj, a 10-year-old girl scolded by her father for asking food. With no money to keep going, her father was forced to close down his fabric factory as a result of the lockdown. It also means that the family had to starve for 2 days. Despite all these, there were no financial aid offered by their local government. With nowhere else to ask help, the girl felt so upset and hopeless, and she took her own life. These are not isolated incidents. Bangladesh is not alone in this crisis. Its neighboring countries in Asia are also experiencing a significant impact, with more lives lost to other causes than to COVID-19. While Japan has a remarkable low COVID mortality rate in 2020, with reported of 3,460 deaths, it conceals a more disturbing statistics. In the same period in 2020, Japan recorded 20,919 deaths by suicide, a staggering and tragic number. These represent an almost 4% increase compared to the previous year. 70% of these are mostly women. The major contributing factors include unemployment, which affects both men and women, and the disproportionate share of household and childcare responsibilities that falls on women, leading to increased financial pressure and emotional restraint. In a country known for its cutting-edge technology and innovative culture, Japan's neighbor South Korea has grappling with this disturbing trend. According to the World Health Organization, Korea ranked 4th globally in 2021 with one of the highest suicide rates, recording 26 suicides per 100,000 people. Across the continent, Asia's vibrant cultures and breathtaking landscapes have long been a magnet for young travelers seeking adventure and new experiences. For Finn Kitson, a 19-year-old from Cambridge, a gap year in the Southeast Asia was the perfect opportunity to explore the region and discover himself. But his journey was abruptly cut short when COVID lockdown forced him to return home and join Manchester University. As he navigated the challenges of university life, Finn found himself increasingly isolated. His flatmate has tested positive for COVID-19 and he was forced to quarantine alone with no one to turn to. What drove Finn to make a desperate decision to take his own life 2 days before the end of his isolation? He had a history of anxiety, but had stopped taking his medication, convinced he was much better. As his family remembers him, they are left with a haunting question: what could have been done to prevent his tragic fate? I'm okay when I'm out with other people, but even going to the bins is difficult. I have no quality of life. I can't and don't want to go out living here. It used to be my safe haven, but now it's not. Please forgive me for hurting you. I can't cope with the isolation, the sweating, the fear of being outside. I just want to go where it is peaceful. These were the last notes Julie left for her family. The 59-year-old Julie was found lifeless on her bed at her room on Walkden Road. Despite the constant support and contact with her family, the mother of two couldn't bear the struggle, as she confessed to her sister Karen. She was struggling to go to the bins and do the household chores. Julie was not always like this. She used to work in an emergency department at the Royal Albert Infirmary before her career changed to work in retail, raising her 2 children. So what drove her to the edge? Things took a dark turn when she had a relationship breakdown, and the dark thoughts became apparent. This left her family in distress and with memories of her. All these incidents, as devastating and heartbreaking as they sound, barely scratch the surface. What my research revealed is that these are no accidents. There are darker reasons that drove these people into despair. All of these are avoidable. Now that we know that social isolation is deadlier than the virus, it begs the question, but why is it deadlier? How does the social isolation affect your body, driving people into despair and tragically end their lives? Up next. The fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. You ask yourself, when will this end? When it does, will everything return to normal? Even with a healthy mind, when faced with uncertainty, dark thoughts start to creep in. The nagging worries in your head are as real and as vivid as you seeing me and hearing me right now. Research has shown that emotional and psychological harm can literally shorten your life. In fact, it's explicitly stated in the Geneva Convention. Quote, "The Geneva Conventions prohibit psychological harm to prisoners of war," end quote. In addition, the US Constitution forbids cruel and unusual punishment. In simple terms, it is illegal for the government to torture prisoners with psychological harm, but it is absolutely legal for the government to put its people in a mass solitary confinement in the guise of lockdown. COVID lockdown is in itself a solitary confinement, at home. Experts back this statement, and so do dozens, if not hundreds, of scientific studies. Take a look at Justin Bieber's psychiatrist, Dr. Daniel Amen, who scanned hundreds of thousands of brains. Check out what he has to say.
This is where the U.S. government got an F for the pandemic. Loneliness accelerates dementia and brain problems. And so when they isolated us, the whole significant increase in brain problems. So get connected to other people.
His statement is also echoed by almost 1 million infectious disease epidemiologists and public health scientists through the Great Barrington Declaration. One of the first public statements to challenge the lockdown policies being implemented globally at the time due to grave concerns about the damaging physical and mental health impacts of lockdowns. Dr. J. Bhattacharya, a Stanford professor of medicine and economics, and one of the key figures behind the Great Barrington Declaration, shared his concern in a conversation with Senator Josh Hawley. Quote, "I think lockdowns as a mitigation strategy are a failure. They've had absolutely devastating effects. Humans are not meant to live in isolation. And that's the main focus of the lockdown strategies now. Psychological distress to young people is devastating. We basically made them feel guilty for even doing normal young people things. As a result, as you can see, 1 in 4 seriously considered suicide. That number is absolutely shocking." End quote. How does social isolation relate to loneliness? Social isolation can lead to a feeling of loneliness, resulting in poor mental health. You have no contact or limited contact with your circle, your peers, your friends, or network. You lose the sense of social bond. However, you can still feel lonely and disconnected even though you are surrounded by people. Julie's case, which we spoke about earlier, is a perfect example of this. Even though she had contact with her family, her sister Karen, this did not stop her from feeling despair and fear. If social isolation causes psychological and emotional harm, how does the body respond to social isolation that it can lead to a shortened life? To answer this, we need to take a step back and understand what are emotions. Emotions are not triggered. You create them. Have you heard of an expression, "You're not yourself when you're hungry"? Have you ever caught yourself being irritated when you're hungry and feeling like lashing out to anyone? Or why every time you go shopping when you're hungry, you end up buying food you don't need? Or worse, buying junk food? Let's go into the science of it. Study shows that your brain is a master predictor. The billions of neurons are predicting as we speak. It is trying to predict the words that may come out from my mouth. And that is brilliant. However, in order for your brain to predict what is yet to happen, it has to learn from something. And that something are your culture, your upbringing, your belief system, the belief system that you inherited, you acquired from your parents, and the environment that you're exposed to, your life experiences, your memories, your habits, and lastly, and equally important, you can guess it, like this one, content. Social media, news, films, books, memes, podcasts, and even the comment of your favorite football player, your idol, your favorite K-drama series, the Hollywood films, the political commentator that you follow. The list goes on and on and on. All of these help train your brain and predict your next thoughts, your next logical and emotional reasoning. Do you remember a time on your social media when a comment really enraged you? Or a time that you felt triggered by a video? Those were your brain's firing predictions from your lived experiences since birth. Your brain's training. You know what's more interesting? Every time your brain predicts something, it affects your bodily sensation, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant feeling. Your heart racing, blood flowing fast and turning you red, or you felt cold, or have a sweaty hands, or you're shaking. Those are not by accident. They are constructed as an effect of your brain's prediction. These are instantaneous sensation, autopilot, but it does not mean you cannot pay attention. Be mindful of it and train yourself to create a new set of prediction. Each bodily sensation is interpreted as a concept which you categorize as an emotions. How you construct and give meaning to your bodily sensation is what creates your emotions. Let me reiterate that. The meaning that you give to your bodily sensation is what creates your emotions. Emotions are subjective. These are incredible findings with over 200 scientific studies. It changes everything on how we view and understand emotions. If you construct emotions, you can deconstruct them by creating new meaning and experience that you can associate with your bodily sensation, and by changing how you categorize your emotions. A perfect example, take a look at the athletes. Before they go to a match, they feel sweaty, heart racing, blood pumping fast through their veins. Non-athletes would call this nervousness. But athletes are trained differently. They call this excitement. The same bodily sensations, but different meaning. So, how does this relate to loneliness? Well, loneliness is a feeling, a type of emotion. It is a feeling of being lonely. It is as real as a person feeling it. Like any other emotion, it is subjective. It is a feeling of lack of connection. Have you had a friend that you can ring at 3 o'clock in the morning, no question asked? Type yes in the comment below. Do you have someone who will go to the end of the world to get you if you're stranded? That is what I mean by true connection. Someone you can trust your life with. Feeling lonely is not the same as being alone. You can spend a lot of time on your own and still feel content. The opposite is also true. You may be surrounded by people or your circle and still feel disconnected. It was at the beginning of the lockdown. It was a clear, sunny day. I could hear the noises of the seagulls outside passing by. I was on my French sofa, lying, staring at my tall ceiling. The silence was deafening, whilst my skin felt the gaze of the sun from my bedroom windows. I was asking myself, what am I doing with my life? Is this what my life is all about? Work, eat, sleep, and go out for a night and then repeat? Climb the corporate ladder, and to what cause? My soul? Myself? I felt empty. I felt lost and lonely. It was like my life was flashing right before me. I realized no money, no high-paying job, nor material things were worth it for my sanity. Being stuck in my flat alone had given me enough time to reflect, face the emotions and trauma that I had been suppressing back then. Things took a darker turn. I was having palpitation. I woke up in sweat with little to no sleep. I dreaded going back to work. I felt so far away from the people I deeply care about, my family in the Philippines. I felt scared of the unknown and the worry that I might lose my dad. And this was before I'd learned that I'd lose my dad later that year. I felt I wanted to escape and literally get lost from the face of this earth until I heard a manly voice interrupted my train of thoughts. He sounded like he was in his 50s. His voice commanded authority, but with compassion and care. He said 4 words to me. Snap out of it. And immediately, it sprung me out of my daydreaming and I sat upright. I was awake like someone had thrown a cold water on my face. You can call it divine intervention or your inner voice. But had it not been for that voice, I wouldn't be here. And I am grateful. I am one of the few who did not act on my dark thoughts. So if you are struggling right now, know this. You are not alone. What you feel is real, but you have more control than you may have given yourself credit for. And I am a walking testament to that. That's why I made it my mission to raise awareness and help people who are struggling with mental health condition through holistic alternatives. If you are like me, who has tried conventional route, attended cognitive behavior therapy, spoken to a therapist, and you are still struggling, you are more stuck than before you went to therapy, and life is becoming more debilitating. You want to break free from your prison mind, learn to get back on track, and stop being at the mercy of your emotions. Train your mind to predict better and live a life worthy of you. Join my waitlist now and be the first to know when my new program launches, packed with simple, actionable baby steps designed to support you in transforming and boosting your vitality and unlocking the healthy lifestyle full of contentment, surrounded by a network that celebrates your growth and wins. Sign up my waitlist now using the QR code on your screen. When someone says they do not find meaning in their life, they mean a lack of sense of safety, a sense of purpose. Humans live for someone or something that we care about, either for a loved one or an idea. Without it, we lose our way, our sense of belonging. You feel you do not belong. You are hypervigilant. You're always in a fight or flight mode, resulting in a high-stress situation, flooding your body with cortisol. Mind you, in moderation, it is okay to have cortisol in your body. You need cortisol to get out of bed, when you're exercising, to generally function, like myself speaking with you right now. But in excess and with overflowing stress day in, day out, it can kill you. How? Well, meet telomeres. They are a protective cap at the end of your chromosomes. Every time your cells divide, it shortens the length of your telomeres, and that is a process of aging. Do you know the other way to speed up your cells aging? Stress. Emotional and psychological harm are the quickest way to age your cells. As a result, it shortens your life. Stress comes in different shapes, either from your lifestyle or external stress. For example, unemployment, financial loss, relationship strains, underperformance, uncertainty, lack of meaningful connections, substance abuse. Your body's responses is like you're under threat. Your immune system is working double time, hard time, fighting off the inflammation, the illness, and this is affecting your hormones in your body, especially your biological chemicals in your brain. The chemical imbalance can result in mental health conditions. Coming up, the silent killer. What are the long-term effects of social isolation that haunts us to this day? Are we facing a mental health epidemic? When the lockdown was lifted, everything looks like we're back to normal. The borders are open. What was one shot is now open. The economy starts to regain. But its people, it is facing a dire situation unlike any in human history. What we did not know is social isolation has a lasting impact. In the US, 49,000 people died by suicide in 2023. That is one death every 11 minutes. And 80% of those were mostly men per 100,000 people. On the other side of the pond, England and Wales has recorded more male deaths by suicide and the highest record since 1999. So why are we facing high rates of male suicide? More men are facing the burden of masculinity, the inability to fulfill patriarchal duties as the protector and the provider for the family as a result of financial loss and unemployment. The bottom line here is safety and trust. Social isolation, even when it was lifted, left a bitter taste in the minds of its people. It left you feeling unsafe and hyper-vigilant about your community, unsure of what the future holds, uncertainty about how can you get back on your feet again. When COVID struck, there was little information on the impact of virus in the brain, whether the virus exacerbates the mental health condition or if it causes mental health condition. After COVID, research shows that COVID-19 and mental health issues are connected. Having a mental health condition might make you more likely to get COVID-19, and getting COVID-19 might also affect your mental health. These conditions are not limited to anxiety, depression, stress, and adjustment disorders, substance abuse, cognitive decline, and sleep disorders. A perfect storm for a mental health epidemic. A recent study showed in June 2024 links long COVID to high risk of suicide. Long COVID is a condition when people still have symptoms of COVID-19 for 18 to 12 months. It means they experience physical stress. Psychosocial stress equals mental health equals suicidal risk and ideation. The suicide report in 2021 by WHO sums this up perfectly. Social isolation and loneliness can increase the risk of suicidal behavior, particularly among older adults and those with a history of mental health condition. It can exacerbate existing mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety, which are also risk factors for suicidal behavior. In addition, social isolation can reduce access to social support networks, which are critical for preventing suicidal behavior. When your life depends on your social support network, such as the Samaritans or charities, which can help you get to safety or access a safe place, are not available, the consequences are deadly. Sadly, this reality hit hard for people who were experiencing domestic abuse, during lockdown. I quote, "Psychologically feel unsafe, being coercively controlled by ex-husband as he has my daughter, using the COVID-19 situation to further control and making it difficult, as I am in the vulnerable category too. I am powerless and have no one to help me." End quote. DV survivor interviewed by Save Lives. The UK Home Office released a report, Domestic Homicides and Suspected Victim Suicide During the COVID-19 Pandemic 2020 to 2021, which reported 215 deaths in England and Wales between March 2020 and March 2021. The numbers included domestic homicide, child deaths, unexplained deaths, and suspected victim suicide with known history of domestic abuse. Of the 215, there were 163 domestic homicide deaths and 38 suspected deaths or suicides of victims of domestic abuse. The Standing Together report clarifies that a causal link between mental ill health and domestic abuse or domestic homicide should not be assumed. However, it suggests that where someone with mental ill health is also perpetrator of domestic abuse, this potentially increased risk of harm to the victim, others, and or themselves. End quote. So you think this is bad? What if I tell you that these are only the tip of the iceberg? Yeah, we are yet to fully understand the full scale of the epidemic. Even with the numbers and the statistics that I have shared with you, these are the cases that we know that are recorded and reported. The World Health Organization acknowledges that there are reporting challenges, but there's always a but. This must not stop us individually, collectively, from working together to bring down the suicide rate and mental health crises. While statistics are well and good, in reality, nobody really cares about statistics until you become part of the statistics. Until your loved one has become part of the statistics. We all have a responsibility to participate. You have a responsibility to take care of your mental health and the people that you care about. The question is, how? How do we connect in a society that has been plagued with algorithms and technology that are marketed for connections, but in reality, disconnect us even more? We have never been more connected globally, but have never been more disconnected as a human race. Up next, the epitome of a disconnected society is when you see an increasing amount of hate online and offline. When was the last time you opened your social media without seeing a single hate comment? When was the last time you chatted with a stranger and truly got curious about them offline? Let me know in the comments below. Hate and aggression are symptoms of an unsafe, an untrustworthy, and a lonely society. Everyone is on edge, everyone feels under threat. It causes division and is manifesting as we show up in public places like online and offline. Some people struggle to cope with this and channel their emotion in a very destructive way, either by inflicting pain on others through bullying or taking a permanent solution to a fleeting concerns. So how do you build trust? Disconnect to reconnect. You cannot go anywhere without seeing people busy on their mobile phone, on the street, restaurant, planes, on buses, and on trains. Even when you're having a dinner and a night out with friends, instead of taking in the experience together with your friends, you're too busy taking photos of your food, the scenery, the selfies. If you care about the mental health of the people you love, then be the vehicle of change. Get rid of your phone. Not literally though, but give a space to be present with your friends and your loved ones. Next time, when you have your supper at home or go out for dinner, make a pact with your partner or your friends to put away your phone. Put it on silent. Enjoy the time together without the distraction from your social media and the internet. And guess what? By the time you come back, the internet will still be there. So give it a try and you will be surprised the difference it can make. When you see people, it is easy to do small talk. Ask open-ended questions like, how are you? How was your day? How was your weekend? These are conversation killers. It's lazy. Because conversation is not ones or zeros, good or bad. And these questions only give you two-dimensional answers. I do put my hand up though, because I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I go on autopilot. So, this way I take baby steps and make an effort to avoid these questions. Instead, try asking questions that get them talking. And what I mean by that is when you haven't seen your friend or a confidant for a while, ask them these questions. What keeps you busy lately? What keeps you up at night? How are things with your new job? When you ask these questions, get curious and truly mean it, and be prepared to listen. When these start to open up, do not interrupt them. Stop yourself from constructing answers in your head, which distract you from active listening. Stop being a passive listener. Instead, empathize and immerse yourself in their shoe. Say like, that sounds tough. Tell me more. I could see that you're passionate about this. I could see that you are concerned about this. What are you planning to do next? Or what do you have in mind? These simple phrases send cues to your friend that you care, that they matter, and they've been heard. Sometimes that's all it takes, to have someone to listen to them, no judgment. You may think active listening is easy, but it is a skill. Try observing yourself when you are with a friend and see how easy to get excited to share your thoughts or give advice as a response or try to fix them. Active listening takes a lot of discipline and practice. When someone is going through tough and dark times, they will withdraw from the society, from their circle, and shut off the world behind them. If you are their friend, pay attention. Do not take it personally. It's not about you. Avoid bombarding them with text messages, voicemails, or missed calls. This will only shut them off even more. This will only overwhelm them. Instead, try to reach out in a subtle way. Send them an old photo of you and your friend with a caption, "Do you remember this?" Or a text with a funny story that you are both involved in, or a fun night you had together when you were both being silly. At the end of the story, say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you. When you're ready for a chat, I'm all ears for you." Or, if you fancy, you could go for a short walk. Importantly, give them the time and space to respond. These little gestures mean a lot to the person going through a rough time. It takes the pressure off them to respond back straight away. Get vulnerable. And I'm not talking about setting up your phone, recording yourself, and crying for the entire internet to see. That's not vulnerability. It's oversharing, unhealthy boundaries. And Brené Brown, the vulnerability researcher, can agree on this. Vulnerability is the act of courage by showing the person you want to build your trust with your delicate side. Share a small truth with that person and see how they respond to that. Are they receptive or are they dismissive? This is how you can tell whether the person is worthy to be your confidant. And yes, you heard me, worthy to be your confidant, because trust does not happen overnight. You build in it over time, especially when you are in a state when you are desperate for someone to confide in. You could start by saying, I'm having a rough time. I'm having a rough day. And observe where the conversation leads you. Do not be so quick to jump and download everything that happens to your life to that person. You will know if they care about you because they are consistent with their actions. They follow through on their words with their actions. Wow, that was a lot. And if you've reached this far, thank you. I know this episode is very heavy and very dark. When I was doing my research and reading about those lives lost, I couldn't help but feel for the families, and I couldn't even imagine how hard it must be for them grieving for the loss of their loved ones. But I also know that this is a topic that desperately needs awareness. Not to scare you or self-diagnose yourself, but to help you with baby steps in reclaiming yourself, your true self. If you're watching this and you believe that a friend or a family member needs to hear this, you want them to be seen, share this video with them. In doing so, you are helping me create more videos like this and supporting my channel. All the research can be found on my website and also my free online hypnosis that you can see on your screen right now. Go check it out, and that's it from me. You take care out there, and let's start to reconnect.